The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the cracked pavement of Willow Creek. The small town was known for its quaint charm, but as night fell, an unsettling darkness crept in. The streetlights flickered to life, illuminating the area with a sickly yellow glow. At the corner of Maple and Elm, a small pizzeria sat, its neon sign buzzing erratically. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of melted cheese and spices, a stark contrast to the eerie stillness outside. Jake, a delivery driver for Tony's Pizzeria, leaned against the counter, scrolling through his phone. Business had been slow that evening, and he was itching for a chance to hit the road. Just then, the phone rang, breaking the monotony. "Tony's Pizzeria, where every slice is a delight," Jake chirped, trying to sound enthusiastic. "Yeah, I'd like to place an order," a voice crackled on the other end, low and gravelly. "Sure. What can I get for you?" Jake's interest peaked as he grabbed a notepad. "A large pepperoni with extra cheese, and you'll need to deliver it to the old Harrington house," the voice said. Jake's stomach sank. The Harrington house was a notorious local legend, a decrepit mansion on the outskirts of town that had been abandoned for decades. Rumors swirled about its dark past, disappearances, strange noises, and ghostly sightings. Delivering a pizza there was a fool's errand, but the voice on the phone sounded insistent. You sure you want it delivered there? It's kind of creepy," Jake stammered. "Just bring the pizza and you'll get a hefty tip," the voice replied, a hint of menace creeping into its tone. "And don't be late." Jake hesitated, but the prospect of a big tip outweighed his fear. He wrote down the order and grabbed the pizza from the oven, carefully placing it in the delivery bag. As he stepped outside, a chill ran down his spine, and the shadows seemed to stretch towards him, beckoning him toward the Harrington house. The drive to the Harrington house felt longer than usual. The old car rattled and groaned as Jake made his way down the overgrown dirt road, flanked by gnarled trees that seemed to close in around him. His heart raced as he neared the house, its silhouette looming ominously against the twilight sky. The windows were shattered and the paint was peeling, giving it a ghostly appearance. Jake parked the car and took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. He grabbed the pizza and stepped out, the crunch of gravel beneath his feet echoing in the silence. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and he felt a strange pull toward the front door, which hung ajar, creaking softly in the wind. "Hello," he called out, his voice shaky. "Pizza delivery." No response, only the sound of the wind whistling through the trees. Jake hesitated, glancing back at his car, but the promise of a generous tip urged him forward. He stepped onto the porch, the wood groaning under his weight, and pushed the door open wider. Inside, the house was dark, the air heavy with dust and neglect. Moonlight filtered through the broken windows, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Jake squinted, trying to make out any movement. "Hello, I've got your pizza." Silence answered him. He moved deeper into the house, his footsteps echoing in the emptiness. As he stepped into the living room, he felt a sudden drop in temperature, a chill that wrapped around him like a vice. The room was filled with old furniture, covered in white sheets that looked like ghosts draped in mourning. "Where are you?" Jake called, a hint of panic creeping into his voice. He felt foolish for being scared, but couldn't shake the sensation that he was being watched. Just then, he heard a noise from upstairs, a soft thud, followed by the unmistakable sound of laughter. It was a child's laughter, high-pitched and innocent. Jake's heart raced. "Is anyone up there?" he shouted, but the laughter stopped abruptly, replaced by an oppressive silence that buried him in dread. He turned to leave, the pizza bag slipping from his grasp as he stumbled back toward the door. But before he could reach it, he heard a whisper, a soft, melodic voice that seemed to float through the air. "Stay, just a little longer." Jake froze, his blood running cold. "Who's there?" he demanded, trying to sound brave. The laughter returned, but it was no longer playful. It was sinister, echoing off the walls and wrapping around him like a shroud. "Stay. Play with us." He turned, heart pounding, and saw shadows darting in the corners of the room. They flickered and swirled, taking on the shapes of small children. "No, I have to go," he shouted, backing away, but the shadows twisted closer, their eyes glowing with a malevolent hunger. "Don't you want to play?" one of them asked, stepping into the moonlight. The child appeared ethereal, translucent, with hollow eyes that seemed to bore into Jake's soul. "We've been waiting for someone to come. We need a friend." Panic surged through Jake as he turned to flee, but the door slammed shut with a deafening crash. He stumbled back, his heart racing as he banged on the door, desperate to escape. "Let me out, please." The laughter crescendoed, filling the room with a cacophony of sound. "You're ours now," they cried in unison, their voices blending into a terrifying harmony. "You can't leave." Jake felt a pull at his feet, as if the floor itself was trying to drag him down. He stumbled backward, falling to the ground, pizza rolling away from him. The shadows swirled above, their laughter morphing into shrieks of delight as they surrounded him. "Join us, Jake. Join us in the darkness." With adrenaline coursing through his veins, Jake scrambled to his feet and lunged for the window. He could hear the children's wails behind him, their voices blending into a cacophony of terror. He smashed against the glass, pain shooting through his arm as he attempted to break free. But the shadows were faster, wrapping around his legs, pulling him down, their cold fingers gripping him tightly. "No! Get off me!" he screamed, panic flooding his senses. The shadows tightened their grip, dragging him toward the depths of the house. "Help! Please, someone help me!" But the house swallowed his cries, the laughter of the children echoing in his ears as they pulled him into the darkness. The once familiar world outside began to fade, the moonlight replaced by an impenetrable blackness that swallowed everything whole. Suddenly, he was in a different room, the walls adorned with faded pictures of children, their eyes hauntingly vacant. The shadows whispered sweet nothings, their voices intertwining with the cries of those who had come before. Jake felt the weight of despair press down on him, the knowledge that he was not the first to be lured into this hell. "Why do you want me?" he shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. "Because you're just like us," one of the shadows replied, its voice dripping with malice. "You're lost and lonely, just like we were. We need a friend for eternity." Jake struggled against their grip, but they were too strong, their coldness seeping into his bones. "Please, I just wanted to deliver a pizza." The laughter erupted again, a cruel symphony that reverberated through the room. "Pizza doesn't matter here, Jake. You're ours now." As the shadows closed in, Jake's mind raced. He remembered the tales of the Harrington house, the stories of children who had vanished without a trace, their spirits trapped within the walls. He couldn't let them claim him too. With one final surge of strength, he lunged for a nearby chair and swung it at the shadows, the wood splintering against their forms. "Get away from me!" he yelled, his voice filled with rage and fear. The impact sent a shockwave through the room, causing the shadows to recoil. For a moment, the grip on his legs loosened, and he seized the opportunity. He dashed for the door again, heart pounding in his chest as he threw himself against it. This time, it swung open, and Jake stumbled out into the cool night air. He didn't look back as he ran, the laughter fading behind him, replaced by the sounds of the night. He sprinted for his car, fumbling with the keys as he fumbled to unlock the door. Once inside, he slammed the door shut and locked it, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He turned the ignition, relief flooding through him as the engine roared to life. But before he could drive away, he caught a glimpse of the house in the rearview mirror. The windows glowed with an unnatural light, and the shadows danced within, their figures shifting and swirling. The laughter returned, echoing in the stillness of the night. "You can't escape us, Jake. You'll always be ours." Jake drove away, tears streaming down his face, the darkness of the Harrington house receding into the distance. But as he sped down the road, he knew he could never outrun them. The shadows of the past would forever haunt him, a reminder that some doors, once opened, could never truly be closed. And as the night deepened, the whispering shadows waited for their next victim, ready to claim another soul for their eternal game. Jake's heart pounded like a drum, each beat echoing the terror that clung to him like a second skin. He drove aimlessly, the headlights piercing through the darkness as if searching for salvation. His mind raced with every horrifying detail of what had just transpired. The laughter of the shadows still rang in his ears, their ghostly whispers taunting him, promising he would never be free. If you like this type of videos, please subscribe to our channel. We will upload a new horror and mystery story every week.